The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Chen Wei entered, her soft-soled shoes making barely a whisper against the crystalline floor. The assembled delegates, representing 47 species from across 3 galactic arms, regarded her with their usual mixture of curiosity and condescension. To them, humans were the newcomers, the prey species who had stumbled into the stars with their primitive chemical rockets and naive optimism. Councillor Vexthar, a towering Krillian with scales that shimmered like oil on water, gestured dismissively with one of his 4 arms. Ambassador Chen, your petition for expanded trade routes through the Outer Rim has been reviewed and denied. The Council has determined that humanity lacks the necessary fortitude for ventures into contested space. Chen's expression remained neutral, though her pupils dilated slightly, a micro-expression lost on most of the alien observers. Counselor, with respect, humanity has proven its capability in— You are herbivores, interrupted Shalara, the avian representative from Thessia Prime, her crest feathers rising in what her species considered polite disagreement. Your eyes face forward, yes, but your psychology, your culture, your entire evolutionary history screams prey. You negotiate, you compromise, you seek peaceful resolution. These are admirable qualities, but the Outer Rim requires predators. The word hung in the air like a verdict. It was then that the emergency klaxons began their wailing song. The massive view screen dominating the chamber's eastern wall erupted with tactical displays. A Zelthian colony world home to 3 billion souls was under attack. The footage showed ships, sleek organic vessels that seemed to writhe through space, descending upon the peaceful world. The Devourers had returned. The Devourers were the galaxy's nightmare made manifest. They appeared every few decades, consumed everything in their path, and vanished back into dark space before any coordinated response could be mounted. They had no interest in communication, no weakness that could be exploited, no mercy in their genetic code. Councillor Vexthar's scales paled to a sickly gray. The defense fleet won't arrive for 6 hours. By then, we have a human patrol ship in that sector, Chen said quietly. The USS Valor, Captain Sarah Rodriguez commanding. 1 ship? Shalara's translator couldn't quite capture the mixture of despair and derision in her voice. A single prey species vessel against a devourer swarm? Chen's hand moved to her communicator. Captain Rodriguez, you are weapons-free. Rules of engagement. Unrestricted. The chamber held its collective breath as the view screen shifted to show the human vessel. It was small compared to most military ships in the Council's fleet, barely 200 meters long, ungainly, with none of the elegant curves favored by advanced civilizations. It looked like what it was, a ship built by a species that had clawed its way to the stars through sheer stubbornness. What happened next would be studied in military academies for generations. The Valor didn't run. It didn't call for backup. It didn't attempt to negotiate. It attacked, but not with the conventional weapons the Council expected. The ship's behavior changed in an instant, as if a switch had been flipped in the collective consciousness of its crew. The vessel spun through space in patterns that violated every principle of standard naval doctrine, its movements wild, aggressive, and utterly unpredictable. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled through the comm, and every translator in the chamber struggled with the tone. It carried something primal, something that transcended language. All hands Predator Protocol. Show them what Earth made us. The Valor opened fire with weapons the Council had deemed quaint during humanity's admission review. Kinetic railguns that threw tungsten rods at relativistic speeds, nuclear-pumped lasers, and then, the weapon that made several delegates physically recoil, antimatter missiles with yields measured in gigatons. The Devourers had never encountered antimatter weapons. In their 10,000 years of terrorizing the galaxy, no species had been insane enough to use such destructive force with such precision. Humans apparently were that insane. The first missile detonated inside a Devourer bioship, and the creature, for the ships were living organisms, simply ceased to exist. The explosion carved a hole in space-time visible from light years away. The remaining Devourers, creatures that had never known fear, that had evolved beyond such primitive instincts, suddenly demonstrated behavior the Council scientists would later classify as terror. They turned to flee. The Valor pursued. Ambassador Chen watched the view screen with an expression that the aliens in the chamber would later struggle to describe. Her face remained calm, almost serene, but her eyes, Those forward-facing, binocular eyes held something that made several counselors instinctively back away from their screens. "You called us prey," Chen said softly, her voice carrying in the shocked silence. "You saw our art, our music, our poetry, our endless quest for peace, and you assumed we were weak." On screen, the Valor ran down a fleeing devourer ship and destroyed it with ruthless efficiency. You forgot to ask why a species would evolve forward-facing eyes on a planet with no natural predators in their weight class. You didn't wonder why our history is written in the blood of megafauna extinctions. You never questioned why a species that claims to love peace has never, not once in our entire recorded history, gone more than a generation without war. Another devourer ship died in nuclear fire. We are not prey, Counselor Vexthar. We are the species that hunted mammoths with sharpened sticks. We are the species that looked at the ocean and said, "I want to eat what's at the bottom." We are the species that turned wolves into pets and made them love us for it. Chen finally turned to face the council, and several delegates would later admit they had to fight the urge to flee. "We are persistence predators, counselors. When we lock on to prey, we don't stop. We don't tire. We don't give up. Ever. We followed wounded animals for days across African plains until they collapsed from exhaustion. We threw rocks at birds until we learned to fly ourselves. We split the atom because we wanted a bigger weapon." On screen, the last Devourer ship jumped to hyperspace. The Valor followed it. "The Devourers are learning a lesson today," Chen continued. "They're learning what every prey species on Earth learned. When a human decides your food, the hunt doesn't end until one of you is dead." 3 hours later, the Valor returned. Its hull was scorched, one engine was offline, and its ammunition reserves were depleted to 17%. In its wake was a debris field that had once been the most feared predator species in known space. Captain Rodriguez's after-action report was brief. Threats neutralized. Requesting resupply and returning to patrol. The Council vote on humanity's petition for expanded trade routes was unanimous. As Chen prepared to leave the chamber, Counselor Vexthar approached her, his scales still pale. "Ambassador, what did you mean by predator protocol?" Chen smiled, and it was the same smile every human throughout history had worn when they heard the dinner bell ring. "It means we stopped pretending to be something we're not, Counselor. It means we gave our people permission to remember what we are underneath all the civilization and culture and peace treaties." She paused at the doorway. "It means we let the monster off its leash. And now?" Vexthar asked quietly. "Now?" Chen's smile widened. "Now you know why humanity spent 10,000 years building that leash in the first place. Sweet dreams, Counselor." The doors closed behind her, leaving the council in silence, each delegate privately grateful that humanity, for all its talk of peace and cooperation, had decided they preferred being friends rather than food.